Hello everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name Elzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all in 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another radioactive episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 278, recorded on Sunday, August 2nd, 2020. Tonight, we're talking about another Patreon pick. This one was chosen by Miles. Thanks, Miles, for showing us the love and support over on Patreon. And Miles chose Godzilla, 1954 Godzilla, the OG. We're going to do it. Before we do, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Phoenix now, Randy Gandy G. Landy. Yep. What's up, man?
Rising like the phoenix from the ashes. I have nothing to add to that. It's important to make an ass of yourself your first day in the town, I'm told.
I've heard that too. Spread your fiery wings and fly, Randy.
You know I will.
Sweet. Next up, calling in from Southern Korea, as always, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Sakia Toomey Stains, headed to Japan, man.
Japan it is. In case you didn't know, Godzilla, Japanese.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew. I've been there a couple times. I pretty much got it.
I don't think.
Yeah,
I think I know about all the ancient culture and everything. Let me go ahead and
all the ancient culture.
Right. Yep. South Korea and Japan, good friends, pretty much the same culturally.
Oh yeah, there's no problems here.
No problem at all. Last but not least, we got our good friend Kaiju Corey coming back on the show. What's up, man?
Not much, guys. How's it going? Good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you, sir. Calling in from my dining room table. I actually have you. I can see your eyes. I can look you in them. It's fantastic.
It's great. Brand new dining room table.
You're somewhat of a Godzilla. I don't know, super fan, fanatic, maybe. I don't know what you.
Yeah,
prefer.
I guess. Yeah. Super fan.
Expert.
Yeah. I don't know if I would use that word.
Okay. I would.
But no, I've got a lot of books. I got a lot of comics. I got a lot of figures, tattoo.
Sweet.
Yeah.
You're the real deal. Genuine Kaiju fan. Sweet.
Circa 1954.
Well, thanks for sitting in with us, man, and make sure we don't go too far off the rails talking about South Korea and all this bullshit already. What's going on? All right. Before we get into the review, let's tackle a little bit of housekeeping real quick. So the August poll pick has closed. We do have a winner for that one. The winner is VHS 2. So we're going to be talking about that sometime this month. Congratulations, Justin. You were victorious.
Yes, Bob. Thank you. Thank you. You ran a good campaign. Yeah, you ran a good campaign, Bob. I'm sorry. Maybe on the TerraVision poll, TerraVision will come out victorious.
We're all three choices of TerraVision.
You did good, Bob. You came close.
Oh, hey, thanks, buddy. Thanks.
Time to dismantle everything you wanted.
Really appreciate that. So that means we got a brand new poll posted over on our Patreon website. It's the September poll, and if you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're going to talk about this September. The theme for September is black and white. So we're talking about black and white horror movies. The 3 up there you can vote between are Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Eyes Without a Face, and House on Haunted Hill.
Bob?
Juice.
It is only the second, but How are those numbers looking so far?
There's been a decent amount of votes already, but there's obviously a lot of days left in the month. But House on Haunted Hill is currently winning. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the end.
All right.
I
won't campaign against you this time, Bob, so don't worry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, mighty juice stains.
I don't want to beat you down too hard.
For your
okay?
mercy.
Gods must rest too.
Jeez.
Damn, that's right.
Wow. Also, we got a brand new mini cast posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $10 level, you get all kinds of exclusive bonus content on Patreon. We've got like 20 episodes up there. I just released a review on a new movie called The Rental. It's a Dave Franco's directorial debut. It's on VOD. You can get it pretty much anywhere you rent stuff. And if you want to know what I thought about it, sign up on Patreon. Check it out.
Whoa. Gun to your head.
Right.
Why don't you do it?
Just do it. Do it now.
Do it. Speaking of doing it, we do have a brand new Patreon supporter we got to give mad shouts outs to. Thanks.
Speaking of doing it?
Speaking of doing it. Doing it being
All right.
signing up on Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
Big thanks to Don C for signing up on Patreon and showing us some love. Much appreciated.
Whoa, thank you, Don. Get ready.
Whoa, here comes the
We're
straight
rearing
showing
back.
salute. This one's for Don.
Slap my ass!
You know, we got to figure out how to not have me do that before you're done talking. So
Yeah.
one day
Timing.
that'll become apparent.
You know, we could do a countdown.
No.
We could, but then there's a delay, and then it'll just fuck everything up anyways. So
You know, nothing could be more fucked up than what we did, but you might as well commit, right?
maybe, yeah. Lean into it. Just lean into it.
Slap
Thanks,
me
Don.
in the ass,
Yeah,
Don.
yeah. Big thanks. Big thanks to Don. Justin, you got any YouTube or Twitch news?
Let's see. My tomorrow, because I am from the future, is Top 5 Tuesday. So if you like a little extra content in your straight chilling weekly previews, you can check that out. That is youtube.com/straight chilling podcast. And we've got all kind of horror video game reviews up there, top 5 lists and everything like that. So brand new Top 5 Tuesday coming at you on Tuesday.
Sweet
That's
deal.
about it.
Cool.
Clean house.
Last bit of housekeeping I want to mention here is we're going to do another Joe Bob watch party on Friday, August 14th at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Whoa, he's coming back?
Yeah, he's doing like a special summer sleepover kind of thing with Adam Green, who's got this series on his website he does. It's called Scary Sleepovers, where he has all these, horror directors, actors, actresses, Tom Savini head asses. All those people will come over to his little production
And they play light as a feather, stiff as a board, or what?
Yeah, they're always stiff as a board. They're
always stiff as a board.
Always stiff.
100%.
Especially Savini, he's real stiff. But yeah, they come over and they talk about horror movies and they watch movies and share stories and stuff. So I guess they're doing like a version of that with Joe Bob, and I don't know how many movies he's showing or what he's showing, but we're gonna be watching them together.
Is it an all night deal?
I don't know, man. I don't know if it's just
Marathon
a double
stuff?
feature or if he's doing 3 or 4, or we'll find out.
What time does it start?
9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Friday, August 14th. Come hang out with us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Man, those West
promise
Coast kids have it easy,
Yeah.
man.
They
I mean,
really do.
They get to start washing around, like 6?
I still get too tired.
8:30, time to hit
Oh
the
my
old hay,
God.
Randy.
I need to take my pill.
Right. So, yeah, that's all we got in the way of housekeeping. Let's go ahead and get to the main event. We're talking about Godzilla, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Tell us what's on the back
Bobby
of the
got
goddamn
this
box.
box.
Yeah, but it's like over there, and I didn't bring it over here.
So what are you going to do it for memory? What's happening?
I have the internet.
This is about Godzilla, who he comes from the ocean.
Yeah, Godzilla from 1954, directed by Corey. You want to say it? You'll say it better.
Ishido Honda.
Thank you so much. Written by
Corey.
Corey, do our dirty work for us, please.
And also Takio Murata, kind of, sort of.
Step on this landmine for us, will you, Corey?
It's better than Ringu.
Ringu. Yeah, so the synopsis is as follows. American nuclear weapons testing results in the creation of a seemingly unstoppable dinosaur-like beast. Short and sweet. Everybody knows about Godzilla. It's sort of, you can't escape it. They even have, cartoons. I remember watching like Godzilla cartoons as a kid with fucking Godzuki all up in that shit.
Oh yeah, Hanna-Barbera.
Oh yeah,
Big Godzuki boys on this this cast.
Way into the Godzukis. But yeah, this is one that I'd never seen before. Gentlemen, had you seen it? And would you recommend people check it out? Randy, kick us off.
I had seen it, but it actually probably wasn't. And it's probably been at least 15 years since I've seen it. I was definitely at oldest in high school when I watched this last. So it was good to get caught back up with it. I know it by reputation, obviously. I've heard enough people talking about like the finer points of it to kind of feel like I knew it already. But watching back through it, it's a movie that I would definitely recommend. You have to be willing to accept that the passage of time means that these effects are not what you see today. You have to be prepared for, and the thing is, like, compared to some of the other stuff that was going on at the time, special effects wise, it's really not bad. They're really, really good, I would say. But you really have to contextualize that for yourself. If you're not prepared for that, you're going to like start giggling right out of the gate and have the whole wrong tone of the whole thing. Context is everything for this movie, so I would recommend it. Know the context of the movie before you watch it, and you'll get more out of it.
Solid. Juice, what about you?
I had never seen this film before, and I would recommend it. It was a cool little time capsule. Great film history. Like you said, it is like everybody knows Godzilla. Like, who doesn't know? And that's weird too, because we grew up watching some cartoons of it, but those haven't been out. And even then they were like kind of older, because I think they played on like
those were like the 70s or something.
Yeah. So that's even that kind of aspect of it is super popular now. But I guess last year we had a Godzilla movie come out. Everyone knows Godzilla. It's a big deal. So I'm glad I finally got to watch this classic 1954. Damn, that was a hot minute ago. So I loved it for like its historical kind of time capsule-ish, like, oh, what was going on back then? This is wild. So I enjoy myself with it.
Solid. Corey, silly question. Had you seen this movie before? Would you recommend it?
First time ever.
Wow.
No, I've watched it a
Our
few
expert.
times. Yeah, I've
I really heard a lot about it.
Heard a lot. Yeah, I feel like I know about it. Kind of like Randy. Other people talked about it. And now
I've heard other people talk about it, so it's like a friend that I've never met.
No, I've definitely watched it several times. Even just this last week, I watched it twice. Once to absorb it and the other time to analyze it. Because it always, it's one of those I sit down and I want to start taking notes, for the podcast, and you just have to suck it in. Like you can't go in with that analytical mindset straight off the bat, because it just has so much to say. Like it is very engaging, but absolutely, if you don't know the context of the film, what was going on at the time, it will become even goofier. But yeah, absolutely, everyone I think should watch it, especially if you're into film. This movie, it did a lot for film, so yeah.
Sweet deal. First time watch for myself. This is definitely one I think you have to watch. If you're a fan of creature features, if you're just a fan of, film history in general, or even just, world history, there's definitely something here for you. It's not specifically a horror movie, except for the fact that it sort of, takes inspiration from pretty horrific real life events. So you can look at it through that lens if you want to. And it's pretty fucked up if you do.
I got some flashes of slasher in there myself.
Yeah,
but,
Godzilla just pulls out this huge butcher's knife. There is a point. There is a point in the movie where there's a harbinger who warns everybody about Godzilla, who nobody listens to. That's true, man. That's true.
I was like, man, fucking Freddy and Jason got nothing on Zilla.
All they wanted was to get some gas.
Yeah.
Oh, going to Tokyo blood, ain't you? I don't know. That's a stretch.
Okay. Tokyo Blood sounds like, I don't know, like a fucking
Good
rap
time.
name or something.
Yeah. It's a camp that I want to go to, that's for sure. Camp Tokyo Blood. All right. So that sounds like a hearty recommend from everybody here. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie.
Spoiler warning.
You've been warned. All right. I got a synopsis. It's very short. So if you will indulge me, I'll blast through it real quick.
Skip to the end.
Skip to the end. All right. A series of boats mysteriously capsize off the coast of Japan. The Coast Guard investigates and finds survivors who claim the sea just exploded. Fishermen are also unable to catch anything, which leads to an elder local claiming that it's Godzilla causing all of this. The legend goes that back in the olden days, when the catch was poor, Godzilla would come ashore and start eating people. To satiate the beast, the old-timers used to make a human sacrifice. After that, a terrible storm blows through, destroying many homes, and the locals claim that it was not a storm, but it was Godzilla. Upon further investigation, scientists find a massive radioactive footprint near the village, and they eventually see Godzilla himself peering over the mountain range. Over the course of a few attacks, Godzilla lays waste to Japan. The Coast Guard attempts to blow him up using some depth charges. They also attempt to electrocute him. Nothing seems to be slowing the beast down. A scientist by the name of Serizawa has developed a weapon that could potentially destroy Godzilla. However, he's reluctant to use it because its immense power could be used for evil things. He eventually relents and uses his, quote, oxygen destroyer to kill Godzilla and sacrifices himself in the process, ultimately destroying all knowledge of how to create and use his weapon so that nobody can use it later. So that's pretty much the synopsis there.
All right.
Quick and dirty. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this thing.
Real dirty.
Real, just filthy.
Okay. I think we covered that. Yeah. So I guess, like, I don't know. I was just thinking to myself about Godzilla as like an icon. I know this is not really getting into the movie so much, but because it's the first movie, I was just thinking about that. This is one of the few characters I can think of that has his name is not just synonymous, but it's also used as like a suffix for words to make them more awesome. So you use the word Zilla at the end of a word in order to make it a better word.
Yeah.
So if you have like,
Bridezilla,
or Carzilla,
Randyzilla.
it literally it runs it runs alongside the Franken.
much better.
Frankenzilla is like the perfect creature, obviously, and we just haven't gotten there yet.
It's obvious.
I wanted to point that out because this is the first movie where this creature arrives, right? Am I right about that, Corey? This is the first inkling of any Godzilla, correct?
Yeah, this is the first. And it's funny you bring that up because I was going to bring that up later. But yeah, for it to have become such a cultural, a pop cultural icon, I normally tell people, I was like, okay, who in the world does not know Godzilla? And they're like, well, people might not know. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to say something and I want you to tell me what it means. Burrito-zilla. And they're like, well, that's a very large burrito. And it's like,
exactly.
Yeah, you automatically know.
In Idiocracy, this is an actual modifier for any word. Like this is that's the future of the language, is the word Zilla is legitimized, or the suffix of Zilla, into something that you can use in an academic report or some such.
Yeah. It's
I'm convinced
it is a staple thing. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting. And so this movie also, I think to contextualize it, because we were talking about the context of it. First of all, just in terms of movie making, this is the Japanese original, not the Raymond Burr recreation that was released in '56, I want to say.
King of the Monsters,
right? Godzilla, King of Monsters, as opposed to this movie, which is technically Gojira. And excuse me. That's part of why he became such an icon, is because that movie was more in the camp category for people. They removed a lot of the subtext because American audiences weren't ready for that shit. And so like internationally, he became a thing that meant different things to different people, and Japan sort of embraced that. Am I right about this, Corey? You can probably speak to it more eloquently than I can.
Yeah. So in case you didn't know, there was to the podcasters, in case you didn't know, there was a little bit of a battle that was going on that kind of led up to this movie. Couple of people
World War
died
II,
in it.
I think it was called.
You know, just the little things.
Little tiff.
Yeah, and we went over there. We established democracy, and some of the things that were removed included proving that democracy had a weakness, and that weakness was the public disagreeing with where democracy wanted to go. So that scene when, you know, the ladies are disagreeing with, you know, the higher ups, their political leaders, that was removed because America was like, we can't show this. Democracy is powerful.
And even just like the true, like, because this is the bigger concept, the bigger context of this movie is that Godzilla as a radioactive creature released 9 years after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And then within the same year as another incident of Bikini Atoll. This movie is about that. It's about recovery and the act of like God that it seemed like that was the wrathful and horrific and hitherto unseen destruction that happened to this entire country, essentially. And so a lot of that was removed because Americans did not want to think about what the true horror that was enacted on our behalf in that war. So that was one of the things that was pushing for the change in this.
We didn't want it visualized, but also I think, primarily because we didn't know. I don't know how deep you want to get into like the context. Because that was something it sounds like Randy already...
real deep.
Yeah, real deep.
I like it deep.
That's the most interesting part of the movie to me, and I'll get to that later. But. So,
if you want to save context for later, I'd be glad for that, because I've definitely got some notes on that if you want to run through the movie first.
Yeah.
Let's talk story.
Yeah, let's talk story, because there's also plenty of that in this movie. So we got
I want to clarify one thing because I was a little confused, and I will say that I by the end of this movie I enjoyed myself, but for the first maybe 30 to 45 minutes, this movie that actually really wasn't that long felt a lot longer. It kind of took a little while to get going for me, and I want to clarify there's a woman and a military guy and a scientist. Was she like hooking up with both of those guys?
She was to be wed to the scientist, but she was breaking it off for the ship captain.
I just wanted to clarify and because then towards the end, when that guy's like burning his notes and like really being like a really noble guy or whatever, she is fucking the shit out of him. All about it. And I was like, damn, man, I mean, your boyfriend's like right here. But I was like, wait, I think she was actually supposed to marry this guy. And I was like, well, goddamn, what's going on here?
I think it's also in that scene, she knew what Serizawa was going to do, because what happens after that, Ogata is the only one who's like surprised. She recognized the fire in his eyes, and he's like, yeah, there's only one.
And that's like,
and the fire in her pants.
Oh.
And that's like, that's a whole context thing I guess we can get to later. But yeah, the whole like the human element of this movie is really strong, and it was very much, and I think Chris from Gargantucast, who was on our Shin Godzilla episode, pointed this out, that movie and this movie have a lot in common that other Godzilla movies don't, in the fact that they focus a lot on the response, like the tactical response, and talking through the politics, the disagreements. And that movie especially does that in a much bigger way than even this movie does. But it also has a lot more like attacks and action scenes, I would say, overall. So I don't know, it just has a common thread with that. And that's something that I've discovered is like maybe one of my favorite things about a Godzilla movie is seeing how people like think through how to respond to this thing. And this movie is really great about that, because you've got a bunch of people who have actually lived through that in a way, in one way or the other.
It was interesting from a couple different aspects for me. One was a historical aspect, but also the generational difference, because one of the first people who's outspoken about killing Godzilla is the older man, and he's like a scientist. And then you have like this younger gung-ho guy who's like, no, we got to kill him. And he like kind of stands up to his elder, which is kind of a big deal because he's also like courting his daughter or granddaughter or whatever. And kind of stands up to him, and she's supposed to be wed to somebody else. So it was kind of like a bigger deal where he's like, no, I disagree. I think, we have to protect the lives of the people. And it was interesting in a couple different aspects, because then I was like, you know what? That guy, he kind of represents that generation, which now in our time is more like in their 70s, 80s, who are like people who are running like the country, who like have that more kind of like gung-ho, like, no, shoot
ask
it
questions
down
later,
attitude. Like, no, like take charge. And I was like, and whereas like our generation, I feel is like more like, whoa, hang on, maybe we need to like think about this a little bit. So it's weird to see like almost maybe this like cyclical nature of it.
I think that might be more of a folly of youth question more than the distinctive generations. Also, like
maybe
that particular guy, he's like he's a zoologist or he's a biologist in some capacity.
Yamane is a zoologist.
Okay, so he on one level is like he's a preservationist. He wants to preserve, the animals or whatever. So just purely on that level, it makes sense for his character to feel that way. But also he makes an extremely strong point by saying, to this kid who's like, well, we need to protect the people. He's like, well, we've just tried to explode it with an H-bomb and that didn't work. So I guess, what do you think the next step is? If it can survive an H-bomb, isn't that something worth figuring out as a people who have just been decimated by that very thing? So I thought that was fucking really fascinating because it was not even something I had considered when I was watching that. I was like, why is this guy? It's like, obviously you got to take care of the problem because people are dying, but it's like, yeah, but X number more people died because of these bombings. So if this thing can survive that, when we can learn about that, then there's value to keeping this thing alive in some capacity and just approaching it differently, because what they're doing by attacking it is exacerbating the issue.
Yeah, because Godzilla only appears after they have attacked him. Like he appears in the beginning, but then they try to like flush him out, and they do, and immediately regret it.
But even that was in response to his whole ecosystem being ripped apart by testing H-bombs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's always in response. He's the Bugs Bunny of kaiju. He only attacks when attacked first.
So with the love triangle, Emiko is kind of supposed to be the audience, whereas Ogata are the people who want to react aggressively, and Serizawa are the people who want to act, scientifically. So you have the physical, and then the mental are literally like. In this movie, I love that they are passively butting heads, because towards the end, they have the disagreement, and there is a scene with a scuffle, but even before that point, they're insanely respectful of one another. Like I love the entire conversation where they're talking about, well, I think we should do this, and well, no, I think we shouldn't do that. And I love that they are in conflict, but they don't have to be aggressive.
Because their goals are the same at the end of the day. And that's what's interesting is like nobody wants destruction. And everybody wants that. Everybody wants to get rid of that. The question is, how do you do that? And when you're dealing with things that nobody has ever seen before or nobody understands yet on a real level, especially this oxygen destroyer that the scientist, whose name, the one-eyed scientist, I'm going to call him that, has developed, like it's interesting, like that he's so terrified of the implications of what could be done with this technology if somebody decided to use it against a population, or use it this movie is very, very not coy about advocating restraint until absolutely necessary.
I thought that was really interesting too, because especially for a culture who 9 years prior saw two of their civilian cities like fucking completely destroyed. What that character did to me was like humanize that destruction, where like somebody made bombs and decided, to drop them on Japan. And this guy is essentially saying, like, I was assigned. She was like, well, why'd you even make it? Or like, why'd you make it? And he was like, out of, like science. Like, I was just, but he's like, I don't want it to kill people. And for like a society that just like is still dealing with that, even one person in the movie says like, oh, I just, I escaped, this place, and now I'm going to get destroyed by, Nagasaki destroyed by Godzilla. So it's like in this movie, and it just like kind of made me stop a second, because I was like, man, I was thinking 9 years after like 9/11, let's just say, 2010. I mean, we're still making movies where people are going in, spies are going into the Middle East, and they're the bad guys and shit like that. And here is Japan 9 years after the fact, and they're making their main character, who ultimately kind of saves the day, saying like, shit, I made it, but I didn't want this.
But it needs to be destroyed. I wish I had never discovered it and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that was kind of powerful for me. I was like, holy shit.
We have Jack Bauer. Deal. They have eye patched doctor, which is much better.
Well, we had Oppenheimer, who was I don't think the Japanese, by then they still wouldn't have known of him, but Oppenheimer, who created the atom bomb, as soon as that dropped, America was like, cool, let's make a bigger one. And Oppenheimer was like, no, I really don't want to. He'd already had, I think he'd already had plans for the H bomb, or like at least concepts, but he refused to make it, and was, he was kicked out in a very bad way for not wanting to be violent with his discovery.
And not wanting to be indirectly a cause of so much destruction.
Yeah. So Serizawa was the, it's when you think of where the world was supposed to be by now, everything was supposed to be nuclear powered. There are old adverts for like, oh, you have the nuclear family with their nuclear powered car and nuclear powered refrigerator. Everything's nuclear. But then we turned it into a bomb, and like all of the science kind of stopped. And then it was, how can we make it bigger? And they succeeded. The H bomb that was tested was the largest one. It's the largest one America has ever detonated. The Bikini Atoll.
Was Bikini Atoll, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it was three. I heard like in one of the things I watched about this, it was 3 times larger than they expected it to be.
Yeah. So, and that's, that alone is terrifying, that it was 3 times large, like, clearly
this was after destroying Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
But so they know they have a bomb 3 times larger.
How do you get the math that wrong? I'm curious,
dude. By not being a soothsayer, like that's what science is experimentation and seeing how things react. Unfortunately, seeing how things react in this context means seeing how entire like land masses and masses of sea get corrupted to their core by like something that didn't exist until just a few years prior.
Yeah. And this was certainly a bitter thing. It very heavily negatively affected Japan. It affected their fishing. They did consider it a direct attack on themselves. The Bikini Atoll was under ownership of the Japanese starting in 1914. So that was Japanese land that the Americans had booted people off of. And then, the fishermen who got injured, like the Daigolf Kuriyumaru, which the Eikomaru is, I didn't get the right. The Eikomaru is based off of. But nobody was expecting that. I mean, America, they'd already done a couple of bombs there. But they had never expected not only their livelihood, aka fishing, as well as their own people to be negatively influenced by this.
Yeah, they directly mention irradiated tuna and how there's which was a huge problem in that area where it's a fishing it's a seafood heavy populace there. So to have those industries impacted by irradiated fish was insane. But then on top of that, like like Corey said, the opening scene of this movie is a direct adaptation or a direct dramatization of events that happened like a few months prior. So this movie came out maybe like 6 months after whatever that boat was called, the Lucky Dragon 5, I think it was called, was irradiated, and all of those fishermen died from toxic dust, from irradiated dust and ash falling from the sky because they were within the bombing zone without realizing it because it was so underestimated. And this is a huge international incident where, like, you know, obviously the Japanese think like, well, they're still bombing us now. They're bombing our land. People are still dying. They are not really showing any restraint whatsoever, despite us having a whole new leadership in our country and a whole new way of doing things set up to mimic what they do, what Americans do. Like, and that also plays into the censorship issue of, this is a movie about radioactivity, but so much about it is so specific to Japan that they had to change it in America, because even though they were following the stringent guidelines of what Americans, you know, passed down to them as the censorship, like what you should and shouldn't show to people, they were following that, but they were including themes, and it was those themes that they removed when they added Raymond Burr in 56. So like Americans couldn't handle that, even though it conformed in every way to what they demanded from the Japanese populace in terms of making cinema or making art. So I don't know. It's all very, like, this movie is so inextricably tied to that context. I feel like knowing all of that is a huge benefit to watching before you watch this movie. Yeah. So that's why I was trying to get at earlier.
One of the big things that Honda wanted was to never, so the American occupation had ended in 52. They were allowed to display stuff like this in Japan now. But prior to that, like 52 and prior, they were never allowed. What is it? Essentially, they had all the free speech that they wanted, unless it was negatively implicating Americans. So, you know, they couldn't say anything.
Right.
But, the boat in the beginning was originally supposed to be the Daigo Fukuryumaru, the Lucky Dragon number 5.
They changed the name.
Yeah, because he's like, you know, it is a thing that happened, but this is not an anti-American film. He could have made one, but that he wanted it to be about responsibility. Yamane is the voice of, or rather, Yamane's last line is the voice of Honda through the entire film, and Tanaka, and like everyone who worked on this. You know, it is mankind's responsibility, because they knew America was not the end of it. America was not the be all end all for atomic power.
Yeah, we were in the Cold War at this point.
Yeah,
like deep in.
So
like 8 or 9 countries at this point, or at least the Soviet Union had nukes at this point, and 8 or 9 countries were at least pursuing it.
That actually was kind of another realization for me, as far as like, I love this from the historical standpoint, like watching this and seeing and like knowing that it was made and the time it was made and kind of the implications around that. One thing that really like was great for me too was thinking like, oh my God, this generation had to then live out the rest of their lives knowing that at any second, like, the world could essentially be destroyed with nuclear power at that point. You know, like today, we have always lived with that, but because we've always lived with that, it's never been like a worry for me. I mean, not like a real, not like a real thing. Like, I guess at some point in my life, I realized that was truth, but it's not something that weighs on me now, where like we talk about like the looming doom of global warming or something like that. Like, these people had to, that was the rest of their lives. And like, God, knowing the fear of seeing like 2 of your cities completely destroyed, and then just like living out the rest of your life with that just in the back of your head. Like, there's a handful of countries that in like the matter of hours could destroy the entire world. Like, that was their reality in their life. Like, going forward. And that's like wild, like just to think about the generational like difference.
It is
and that
different.
yeah, I know it's true, but it doesn't like really like worry me, I guess. I probably should, but like it doesn't.
Well, the concept of mutually assured destruction, it became this stalemate, and the war became ideological. That's why it's a Cold War.
Yeah.
And the way that shook out is that we sort of integrated the systems of keeping each other in check into all of our mutual governance of our different countries. So checking in on each other's nuclear warheads or whatever, that became Tuesday instead of something terrifying, because on top, like it was that the fact that we institutionalized like checking in on each other and the checks and balances in an effort to not destroy everyone, in addition to the fact that it had been so long since these weapons had been utilized on the scale that they were. And people were aware, more and more aware of like the destruction of that, and more aware of how that could easily happen, but it would happen to everyone. If it were to happen, it's going to happen to everyone. It just really like diminished just general concern with that. And so now we don't really worry about it, because there's this optimistic, you might say, hope that, nobody's crazy enough to push the button. Nobody. There's no leaders right now. There's no leaders right now with incorrigible desire for destruction. None.
Not a one. America.
So maybe we should talk about the movie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is just like the most interesting part to me,
yeah,
and
it is
because it's so integral.
Yeah, it is very difficult to separate the two. Because just watching it, I cannot see it now as like a monster movie or a drama. Like 10 plus watches deep when I watch it now, and having read so much, even more about the context, which we can get to later, but it's like, it hurts to watch this, knowing where it came from and knowing more of,
The shot, and this is like highlighted in a video that I watched. I'm gonna have to figure out what that was and keep it in the show notes. But there's a video that highlights this one scene that happens during the destruction of Tokyo scene, where Godzilla's terrassing downtown and just knocking shit over and destroying people's lives. And there's a mother and her two kids sitting on the ground, and she says, "We're gonna go meet your daddy now."
Yeah, we're going to where daddy is.
Oh shit! Because that is a person who lived through fucking Hiroshima that's speaking. That's a person who almost certainly knew somebody who was obliterated atomically.
Yeah.
Not only that, but this movie, for his like, okay, because there's a guy in a suit. He's in a rubber suit and he's walking around. So I mean, this movie has like some. I mean,
I thought it was real.
There are times where it doesn't look great, but it is. It's very much of its time. But to like kind of fix that a little bit, like in my like heart and soul, were moments like that, because then there's another moment where there's like reporters and they're on this tower and the guy is reporting it live and they're like, Godzilla's coming, he's coming towards us, he's grabbing the tower and he's like, "This is it for me, ladies and gentlemen, like thank you," or whatever. And I was like, that was very powerful to me.
That was
because it was like, this guy, they played it very straight, like, I'm reporting shit. Here's what's going on.
He's doing
That's
his
it
job.
for me. Like I'm definitely dead. And like I was like, man,
he didn't miss a beat either, too. I mean, it was the band playing on the Titanic.
Exactly.
They were going under.
So like that moment, the moment with the kids, and then like later there's a moment where the girls, like the girl choir, school or whatever, are singing stuff. The last 30 minutes of this movie really kind of pulled it out for me, because I was like,
it's a genuinely moving movie.
It was a little slower because it's a lot of politics. Like, what are we going to do? I don't know what we're going to do. I disagree with you. But then the last part, like once Godzilla starts like fucking shit up, everybody like plays it pretty straight. Like, oh, this is really terrible. And even though there's like a dude in a rubber suit just kind of tracking around a bunch of models, like they throw in these heartstring moments and you're like, man, this is some real shit. Like this is shit people really dealt with. And I felt that. And it like, oh man,
they're tapping into real shit. And as silly as the metaphor is, like at face value, it is tapping into real life fucking intense national trauma, international, if you want to get down to that. But yeah, like the thing that this movie birthed, the Godzilla that we knew culturally, is not really that, not typically, which is why Shin's Godzilla took the world and like the Godzilla world and ripped it in half, because you got people over here that like really loved that aspect of it, but haven't gotten it and been dry spell for years. And then on the other side, people who just want to see monsters beat the fuck out of each other, which is perfectly valid. That's a perfectly valid way of enjoying Godzilla, and the way that most people enjoyed Godzilla in America for its entire existence, because you couldn't even get a copy of Gojira for decades, right? I feel like that's right.
Because you
could only watch King of Monsters.
Yeah. Even like I'll make that part quick. Even every other film, because various companies in America funded a lot of the like earlier schlock films. So like if your parents say, "Oh, I remember watching Godzilla growing up," whatever movie they saw was not the original, because the original never existed in America. It only existed in Japan. America had the rights to chop it up and dub it up and do whatever they wanted. And that, like, I don't think they started releasing real I guess VHS, they were sparse, but even then I'm not sure they were all legit. But it was like like early 2000s, pre 2010, before you could go in and they were finally releasing legitimate Japanese copies of any Godzilla movie.
Thanks, Criterion.
Really, they pulled it out of the fire for us,
doing the Lord's work.
And really, like, this is a pervasive issue. I mean, the first Godzilla movies I saw were definitely not this one. It definitely wasn't even King of Monsters. It was like Megalon. Like, and there's like so many more examples of Godzilla being this goofball superhero, Super Saiyan motherfucker than there is him being an allegory for something horrific, truly horrific. That's what people think of, especially in America, because the Americanized version is so toothless by comparison.
Rob's favorite is the 1998 version. I mean, that's Rob's favorite.
But even in Japan,
the original,
Japan itself, it's what's interesting is how you would think that it would hold an entirely different significance in Japan, and I'm gotta assume it does. And overall, like Godzilla, the name Godzilla means something else overall. But they leaned so heavily into that kind of approach that Godzilla is now a fucking like official citizen of Japan and an ambassador for Japan. The fucking irradiated sea monster who destroyed Tokyo and took the world by storm is their fucking best buddy now, because the goofy Godzilla in so many ways culturally outweighs the impetus for this movie, really. I don't know. I just think that's really interesting how it like evolved. It's the same way that like, you'd go from a guy killing kids in their dreams because he was a murderous person who got killed by parents and a pedophile, to being a dude who like says "got your nose" and rips a girl's nose off. Like, this is it's escalation in the weirdest way, and like horror movies tend to do that. It's really bizarre.
I love soul food.
For Godzilla, it was basically just capitalism. That's a whole conversation, but essentially as they got weirder, it was Toho saying, how do we get more butts and seats? Who are we missing? Okay, we need to get more kids. We need to get more women. We need to make these family friendly to start selling those tickets. But yeah, on this movie, man, again, it is really hard to just talk about the movie as the movie.
It is.
Yeah. It's fine.
Really
just let it roll.
Let
it roll.
Dude, real quick, I'm just going to continue not talking about the movie here. But
thank you for clarifying.
Corey, have you seen the 77 colorization of King of Monsters?
Yes. The Italian.
I found out about that last night in my rabbit hole. That shit is nuts.
It is.
You want to tell us about that from your perspective? I'm curious what you think about it.
Man, I don't remember much other than it was an Italian filmmaker, and I cannot think of his name right now, but he also
look it up.
included Zilla after his name because of
Godzilla.
Holy shit.
or that was what he essentially called the movie. Anyways, he wanted to re-release it. I forget what the motivation was. But yeah, just wanted to re-release it, and they were like, it's black and white. You got to make it colored. So
it was in response to King Kong remakes doing well in America in the 70s. Yeah.
Well, even
which is weird because it's an Italian. Yeah.
Italian psychedelic Godzilla. Godzilla.
It is
That's wild.
super bizarre.
Yeah. Well, like
it's almost unwatchable.
So it's funny. I've watched it.
Yeah.
One of our Rain Dogs? One of our local bars has a small concert / viewing area in the back, and they hosted a movie night of that film. And I
didn't know that.
Yeah. And they had an original VHS. There are not many out there. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was, it's kind of funny because like, while I have seen, 54 and King of the Monsters many more times, upon this rewatch, I was seeing some of these scenes with the fucked up colors because he was just laying like cells over. Yeah. He was just laying colored cells over.
They're hand painting like gradients onto shit. It's not even like fine tuned colorization where you're.
I don't think it was even hand painted. I want to say it was literally just like essentially re-recording it, but putting colored cells in between what's recording.
Well, they definitely like. I saw a video of them painting.
Okay,
I don't know how. I mean, that was just one video though, so grain of salt. But
still, I don't know the entire history behind that, but it's a wild watch. When they went to Odo Island, that's when it first hit me because I was like, "Why is this not purple?" Oh, right, no, this is black and white. But
it's hard to see, man.
Yeah, no, it's a very horrendous watch.
Yeah, Luigi Cozzi is the director.
Godzilla.
And
Goblin does the soundtrack, by the way, Bob.
Makes perfect sense. I really want to watch this. But he did a documentary on Argento called Dario Argento Master Horror. He also did that movie Contamination, which is like a terrible alien knockoff. Joe Bob hosted it this second season of the Drive-In, Last Drive-In. It's not particularly good. He's just made a bunch of like Italian schlock movies like Hercules, a bunch of not particularly great stuff. But that's super interesting, and I really, really want to hunt down a copy of this Godzilla.
You can watch it on YouTube. That's where I watch bits of it on YouTube, but it's just really, really rough transfer, so it's not.
Gotcha.
It's a little like there's some things there that are difficult to understand, especially the first footage in this particular edition. They add and remove a lot of shit in this edition.
They even more. I want to say like wartime scenes. They added actual shots of the aftermath of Hiroshima, including dead like corpses and shit.
God damn.
Yeah.
The Italians in the 70s and 80s didn't give a fuck, man. They would rip off anybody and everybody.
Damn, dude, that's pretty fucked up.
Make sequels to whatever.
I don't like that.
They don't give a fuck.
They really didn't give a fuck. And that's
what you get with Italians.
If you look it up on IMDb, it's listed as Godzilla, the Eurotrash version.
Yeah,
that was just a joke. That's just a joke.
Just a joke.
In case you didn't know, not every Italian is Luigi Cozzi. Okay.
I'm actually not 100% sure that it is Goblin, but it's reminiscent of Goblin, maybe. I'm going to have to look that up.
Okay. That sounds right, though.
It does sound right to me, too.
It was just a really weird experience. I don't remember much about it.
Anyway,
psychedelic is a good
I just wanted to bring that up because I had never heard of that, and just watching a few minutes of it, I was very blown away, and not necessarily in a positive manner. I was just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
That is a corpse. And I found like a video, like sort of contextualizing it and breaking it down that really like laid out just how insane it is. Cause I couldn't watch the whole thing. They intersplice like scenes from entirely other Godzilla movies and scenes of just destruction of property from other movies. Just taking it piecemeal and remixing this shit. And it creates something entirely new. I got to give it to him. It's transformative work. To put it in
copyright law.
Yeah. Yeah, but goddamn, it is not good.
Yeah, I'd only recommend that for like really just the hardcore people. Because
If you want to be hardcore, you gotta live hardcore. That means watching colored Italian Godzilla films.
I was trying to find out who wrote the soundtrack for Godzilla, and through my Google search, I came across a Boston speedboat tour that's called Godzilla. Wow.
Yeah.
Boston, so it's
Free cod piece with every ticket.
Yeah. Eat your cod while you're wearing your cod piece on the Godzilla tour. Bastard.
Oh. How
Anyway, but
quickly
yeah,
this
this is-
devolved.
Right. Sorry.
So yeah. Anyway, back to the original film. So yeah, the some of the effects were interesting, and I think we need to spend some time talking about that because it's real easy to, and from a modern perspective, look at all of the effects as like childish and silly, and like how could you be afraid of this? The context really brings the fear to it, in my opinion. But also like considering what they were working with, and like some of the techniques they use are really they kind of pull all the stops on things for in-camera stuff. Like the compositing in this movie is pretty fucking good.
There was one piece of trivia that was saying, I think some of the things that he was melting with his breath were like actually made out of wax, and they were melting them with like lights and heaters and shit. So I mean, they were like really trying to do it right. And some of it, there was one scene after he destroys the city where there's like fires in the background that looked like really kick-ass actually, where it's like showing kind of like the skyline, like the city just line and
blazed
fire. Yeah. And I was like, man, that actually like looks really good. It reminded me of that movie where that guy's on the train and he starts like killing people, the old school movie, and then they go to a carousel. It was Randy's pick.
Strangers on the Train.
Yeah, there was like some effects like that with like the fire and stuff. Anyway, it just
I noticed
me of that.
I'm not 100% sure this is the case, but I also noticed in this movie at least one scene or one shot appeared to be in stop motion, and it was of a truck sort of careening off the road and exploding. And I was like, man, they took the time to stop motion that just so they can get this model to look like a crash. And it's not perfect, obviously. There was literally at least a couple scenes where I literally saw the strings. So like there's problems. Like there are things that could have been done better even for its time, but for its time, they were not fucking around. They were pulling every in-camera trick that I can think of that was used for this kind of movie at the time, and then some. And for all I know, inventing them along the way.
And really, too, it feels like they knew their limitations in some aspects and did everything they could to complement those weaknesses. So, for instance, some of the visual effects are rough. But like we said, there were some, they interspliced it with moments like with the heartstrings that I was talking about earlier. But also the sound in this movie is so kick-ass. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like it sounds amazing. Like Godzilla, like those sounds are so unique and intimidating and powerful. For when you see a guy in a rubber suit that can like barely move his arms, but you hear these sounds, you're like, hot damn, like that's some powerful shit right there. So I don't know. I feel like they did their best to like cover up their weaknesses as best they could.
So on before getting too far from the special effects, their SFX guy is Eiji Tsuburaya, who was like just a god of special effects in Japan. He's also the guy who created Ultraman. But his work with miniatures was amazing, but also a pain in the ass. The buildings were made out of cement and actually had a structure, so they're not blocks. They have real structure inside.
Wow.
So that when crushed, they will crumble like a building should. The cars were made out of cast iron. The electrical lines were made out of wax, as Juice mentioned. But they did everything. For many of it, he wanted realism. And I mean, you can feel it when Godzilla steps on a car and it doesn't crack. It like just crushes. It looks like it has been put into a crusher. The there were several suits. There's 2 like full size suits, and then he's got pants and then a top. And they also had a hand puppet. Some of the effects they did there. So when they're on Odo Island and everyone, like Yamane and the main gang go see Godzilla for the first time, that is, I forget what the technique is called, but they filmed a hand puppet, which they mostly did for heavier facial details. That's why they made that. So they have the hand puppet that's filmed over a miniature tree line, and then they filmed again on location all the people running away. So instead of like overlaying this is literally a double exposure.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
they did that a lot.
Yeah. And a lot of the scenes, what is it? Even the diet building at the very end, when there's just flames everywhere behind Godzilla, that was a superimposed thing as well. But no, they do that a lot. And in most of these cases, or I think in all the cases, it was 2 different crews. Yeah, because they had 3 different filming crews. So the guys who were filming, the hand puppet over the mountain line were not the guys who filmed the crowd running away. So the precision that brought all of this together is just insane for the 50s. For there to be like no shaky cam, everything's perfect, everything lines up. And again,
It was so interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
I was just going to say, what was so interesting to learn about that, in particular, the compositing that is done here. There's a Criterion feature where they go over it and they show the individual shots and how they splice together and so forth. And what was so interesting to me is I watched that after I watched the film, and I clocked a couple of instances of that. I was like, oh, okay, so obviously these people are filmed separately from the man in the suit behind them and all that stuff. But they do that so much more that I never noticed. And there's a lot of really impressive fucking matte paintings that they composite in there to create, environments that don't really match reality. They added that the entire island nation in several shots, the water is all composited in. There's no, it's just a mountainside, and they cut out part of it and add in a fucking a horizon line on the ocean.
It's really believable.
And I know, exactly. And that's what blew me away. It's like, my God, I knew I saw some of this, but they did this so much and I didn't clock it at all.
Yeah. There's a scene when they're walking through the village. I think it's when they first get there and they're walking around checking the radiation and stuff. But there's a footprint in the background, a Godzilla footprint in the background, and that is painted onto a piece of glass that's put in front of the camera. So they're recording this footprint that is perfectly cut out around this building to make it look like it's there behind them.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So,
and I mean, sorry.
Oh, so in short, this was the most expensive Toho film to date. At the time. And so when you say they pulled out all the stops, I mean, they really did. This was an insane budget for Japan.
Yeah. And the thing is, as much as people give the whole Godzilla series grief for being cheap, this movie, it's easy to fall into that without having that context in advance. But it's easy to watch this and be like, yeah, that looks like a puppet. Looks like a guy's hand in a puppet. Yeah, that looks like a dude walking and stomping around in Godzilla-shaped clogs or whatever. But it's so much cheaper later down the line.
Yeah.
It's so that I don't think this movie deserves to have as much of that conversation. It deserves so much more because they're really making huge and impressive strides with some of the other in-camera effects. I don't know. It's really fucking impressive to me how much they did, and it's a shame. Corey, so this is the most expensive adjusted. I'm assuming for inflation and all that shit, compared to all the other Godzillas. Is that because they don't do as much compositing and things like that later, right?
Expensive to date at that time. I forget what the costs look like, but I do know that the series definitely started. It was a do more with less. Literally, I don't know. I don't recall if it was immediate, but from the 50s through the 70s, there was definitely a point early on where they were just like, okay, make another movie, but now you have like $10,000 less. Make another movie.
Right.
Now you have another $10,000. Yeah, it's just funny reading through like film by film and seeing what they did with even less and less and less and less.
So it looks
It's like
the
seasons of
budget-
Community.
The budget for this in USD anyways was $175,000 in 1954. So
So
pretty
like, yeah,
low
and
budget by today's standards anyways.
oh yeah, what is that adjusted? I wonder. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Do the math, Randy.
I'm doing it.
Not a scientist.
Brain
man.
blast.
Part of the trivia, I feel like we're just you got to mix in trivia with this.
Yeah, it's impossible to not.
So, but part of the trivia says, I guess Seven Samurai came out in 1954 too. So I don't know much about it, but I guess it says the simultaneous production of this film and Seven Samurai nearly forced Toho Kaisha into bankruptcy. I guess he was producing both of those. Is that correct, Corey? Do you know?
Oh, Toho is the film studio.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Sorry. I don't know.
Yeah. So
Thank God we have Corey here.
no, but they
and just sorry.
Oh yeah, so it's funny that you bring that up because the previous most expensive film was by Kurosawa, the guy who did Seven Samurai. On one of the tracks, they said that essentially Kurosawa and Honda were constantly fighting for the most expensive film.
Oh, the Cameron and Bay of Japan.
Yeah,
Let's buy some extra expensive Sammys for the crew this week, boys. We got to get that budget up.
Gotta get that budget.
That's a shitload of sandwiches.
Put some gold leaf on them Sammys. Adjusted for inflation, 175,000 USD from 1954 would be 1,671,000 and change, which is still not a lot. That is a small budget.
You couldn't even remake that shit for
a
1
big
million
movie.
these days.
no.
No, you really couldn't. Yeah, so I don't
You'd
know.
be having some dry Sammys for that crew for 1 mil.
No mayonnaise. No mayonnaise at all. Sorry.
To touch
I would
on what Juice mentioned about the soundtrack, Akira
About the
Ifukube
Sammys.
them Sammys. Yeah, Bob, what are we getting Sammys?
Sorry. Don't have the budget. Can't do it.
Need more Patreon subscribers.
Heard that.
Yeah, so this movie took the special effects for this movie alone took over 70 days. Average turnaround time from start to finish was like for any movie was 50 days. So this was really pushing some people. The soundtrack was made in a week, and Akira hadn't seen really much of anything. AG was so, oh man, to say this was a big deal really discounts how big of a deal it was for everyone involved. So AG refused to show anyone like scenes with Godzilla or what was going on. So like Akira got these very few kind of nuggets of what was happening. And it was essentially just Honda as well telling him, this is going to be big. Like this is going to be the biggest thing to ever hit the screen. And so without really knowing what he was doing, Akira just brought this thing together.
Wrote one hell of a score.
He would have fit right in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I think we should probably land the plane, huh, Bob?
Well, yeah, we're running a little long, but I also don't want to. I don't know. There's so much to talk about. As far as like the score goes, didn't he create the roar of Godzilla by taking like a glove or something and just like rubbing it down the strings of a double bass?
Yeah, Contra bass.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
That was part of the trivia. Let me see if I
Super
can
cool.
find
I
exactly.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and there was
Let me
only
see if I
like
can
one
in Japan.
in Japan. Yeah,
Yeah.
He had to like make an appointment to go there and do it, and because there was only one, he couldn't test it out. He just went there knowing that it would sound the way he wanted it to sound. That's super fucking cool. I like that.
Describe this instrument to me.
Contrabass. It's like an upright bass, basically.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
There's only one in Japan. Is it a very unique kind of bass?
not particularly.
I'm assuming a lot of that probably had to do with the war as well.
Yeah,
just
maybe
kind of
so.
a lack of quality things being there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the trivia says the sound department tried numerous animal roars for Godzilla, but felt they were unsuitable for an animal of such immense size. So they came up with Godzilla's roars by rubbing a coarse resin-coated leather glove up and down the strings of a contrabass, double bass, and reverberated the recorded sound. Also, Godzilla's thunderous footsteps were made by beating a kettle drum with a knotted rope. Ooh, that sounds like a hot Friday night.
Girl, let me beat that kettle drum with my knotted rope. If
Let
you know
me get
what
my
I mean.
knotted rope out.
Damn, girl.
hell of a
Talking about
workout.
Hotline Kings.
Oops.
I like your kettle drum.
Beat me like the Godzilla drum.
Ass Zilla. You know what I'm saying? All right.
Zilla.
Straight downhill.
Yeah. So that's another. That's just
Much
how we,
like
that's
the
how
film
we do.
series, we're devolving.
That's how we do. Anything else you want to throw in real quick before we rate this? Corey, you got anything you want to add real quick?
Yeah, so on the and I will try to make this quick, on the topic of this being a horror film, while it is very difficult for Americans to perceive this as a horror film, you have to take into consideration that even before World War II was happening, the Second Sino-Japanese War was going on, where Japan was essentially just taking over Asia. I didn't
Sons
realize
of
quite.
bitches.
Yeah, Japan was for being such a tiny nation, they took over just an insane amount of Asia, and it's that's a whole thing. So when World War II ended, Japan had lost 2 wars, one of which was one of massive conquest. The other one being, the World War. They thought big of themselves. Hey, we've taken over a good portion of China, Manchuria, Korea, all the outlying islands. We can take America. So they lost 2 wars. So the filming may not be that of a horror. It's very much a drama. The context is all horror. When you see Tokyo burning in this, and before the bomb dropped, no one would ever have imagined that could happen. So to see Japan like going through all of this just straight shit, it hit very hard in this like terror feel, because it's like, holy shit, that could happen. Like, that is now a very real thing.
Yeah.
If nuclear activity is just allowed to keep going. So.
True horror. The context
God damn.
brings the horror to this movie. All right, let's rate this thing out of 5. Randy, why don't you? Randy, you're going last because you always change your shit. Juice, kick us off out of
Good
5.
call.
How you feel about
Good call.
Godzilla?
I was pretty surprised and impressed by this film. Like I said at first, and we had seen Shin Godzilla, so I was kind of prepared for the political side of it. But for a movie that I think ended up being an hour and a half, it felt longer to me starting out. So it took me a while to get into it. Now, I feel like the last half really picked it up for me, and it really ended on a high note. So I was glad about that, because at first I was like, man, I'm not like really digging this very much. But it really like saved itself. The sound design is amazing. The visuals in some contexts are impressive. Other times they look really goofy. And I feel like that's where like my score is going to start to drop. This is really dated, but even in its date, like, we covered the, Creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, we've covered like Caligari and older movies too. So even like 54 standards, like some of this is just, it looks kind of goofy. It does. And like, I think even for its time, some of it probably looked goofy. And I feel like they tried to like cover their tracks as like best they could. But it's still there. And so that's going to drop it a little bit for me. The story was engaging and interesting. I love the different perspectives. The the older scientist and then the younger scientist versus like the younger military guy versus just like the people in general, that seeing them go through their democracy. Even some of it kind of rang true to today. Like, I mean, the guy is in the courtroom saying like, think about the economy and our appearance of like, if we just, I mean, I was like, holy shit. Like, I mean, what, nothing's changed 70 years later. So, you know, so it still rings true in a lot of cases. I love the historical context of it, this just little time capsule, and like seeing this culture. Also just having a movie from Japan from that time, like I gotta say the lead actor and actresses like were just absolutely delightful. Like just even just their get-ups, their outfits, like just historically, I was kind of mesmerized by this movie in just so many different kinds of ways. So ultimately, I'm going to end it at a 4-star. And then the the 1 star is just kind of going to be dropped for kind of looks a little goofy still. And the first half was kind of slow and like was disinteresting me. Like if I didn't have to watch this with the cast, I don't know if I would have made it through if I was just like watching it on my own. So yeah, that's 4-star for me.
All right, 4-star from Juice. Corey, what about you? Out of 5, how do you feel?
Okay, so on the slowness, again, I've seen this probably a dozen times. This watch, it felt a lot more like Alien, specifically where they choose to hold a lot of their scenes. There's not a lot of like just walking or just nothing that's happening. Each scene is trying to do something fairly impactful. While that may not translate to someone from America, you know, we probably don't care about the dances on Odo Island or, you know, certain other things. But I appreciated it more. They also, I'll give it a fault that they never cover when Shinkichi was adopted. So the little boy that was on Odo Island, that magic, like he's from Odo Island and then is magically at Yamane's house. Somewhere in there was adopted by Yamane because his family had died.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's goofy. I'm still going to give it a 5. You know, it's a classic. It's beautiful. You know, it's
solid, wholesome kaiju horror movie. I'm gonna go next. Out of 5, Bob, how do you feel? Well, let me tell you.
I could have done it, Bob. Just gotta give me a second.
Bob cues himself up.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you. Yeah, first time watched. I enjoyed the hell out of this movie, specifically like the historical context and what it was actually pulling from. Like, you know, real life horrors like Cooter was sort of outlining earlier. And I didn't realize just how like upfront about it they are. Like you said, it's not necessarily like an anti-American movie, which they definitely would have had the right to make. But like how they in the movie directly reference Hiroshima and, you know, the atom bomb, the H bomb, and all these things. I did not realize that. I figured they'd just like talk about maybe some nuclear testing out in the ocean, and that'd be kind of the end of it. But they don't skirt around any of it at all. They talk directly about it and how like absolutely terrifying it is. And that one scene with the lady holding her 2 children, watching Godzilla come tear ass through Japan, and she's like, you know, we're gonna go see your dad. And I was like, that is the saddest shit. It really just like pulls on your heartstrings and grounds this movie in a really, really terrible way, because that shit really did happen. It makes you feel for the characters. And as far as the, you know, the practical effects go, some of them do look a little goofy, but I kind of love it. It adds a lot of charm to the movie. A lot of them do look really good, I think. Most of them do, I would say. The vast majority of them do. There's a couple scenes where you definitely do, you know, see the strings or whatever, and there's one scene in particular where, like, I think an ambulance, you know, careens into a building or something like that, and it's incredibly obvious that it's a little model car.
Yeah.
But I love that. I think that's super, I don't know, just endearing. I really, really like that. The score is incredible. The sound design is incredible. The acting is solid for what it is. It is a little slow. It feels a little slow. But it's a movie that was made in 1954, so it just kind of is what it is. And
I thought you were just gonna say, it's a movie.
it's just a fucking movie. It's got
It's a little slow, but it's a movie.
It's one of those movies you hear about.
It's a talkie. It's one of the talkies.
One of those moving picture shows,
Ultimately,
Kinetoscope.
I'm going to give this a 4. I really enjoy it for what it is. A little bit difficult to get through, specifically the first half. I actually like the folklore stuff and like how they get into how they used to sacrifice someone to Godzilla on the island, and like the old timers talking about the good old days and all that. I really like that too.
You got to love how sacrificing one person
Right.
would satiate Godzilla.
Yeah, that monstrous creature.
As long as she's a hot lady,
As long as she's an
Godzilla's all about those giabos.
He's on that hot bitch diet.
Hot bitch. All right, Randy. Now
I
you
get to
can
go
finally
now.
talk again. Out of 5.
Now that you've heard us all manipulate you, what do you think?
All right, 2.5. Wait a minute, I'm changing it. I'm going to give this a 4.5. I think that this movie, pretty much everything that everybody said was true. To the extent that the first half is boring or whatever, or slower, I didn't feel that as much as I was anticipating, because I remembered enough about this movie from my first viewing to know that it took a little while for the true action to start. And but it wasn't as long as I expected, and I was more engrossed with the characters this time because I'm more of a fully grown person now than I was at 14 or whenever I saw this last. So and I was really interested in specifically Eye Patch Doctor and his conflict. I think that his whole thing and the older professor, those two characters, they're point of view characters in a way of Honda, I gotta think. So, and like the context of it, like we said, like there's nothing really to add to that. It's to me the most engrossing thing about this movie, and the most engaging way of talking about Godzilla is as something to respond to. Something for the humans to respond to, a horrific act. Like it's sort of an act of nature, but it's portraying an act of man, and so it's got some maliciousness to it. But it's also so big that it can't really be contextualized as more than an act of God in a lot of ways. I don't know. I just find that whole interplay really, really interesting, and to really strongly compel the audience at the end to approach these armaments that we have with caution. Like the final lines, I don't remember what exactly it is, but it's something along the lines of this time we had this destroyer, but there may be other Godzillas out there in a different trench or a different somewhere, and what are we going to do next time? The guy who knew how to fix that is dead, because he was an invention of this movie who was responding to something that was a stand-in for something else. That we have no oxygen destroyer for nuclear armament. So the whole, this is it's got to be, right? It's got to be one of the first anti-nuclear films to reach this level of popularity. I think
Strictly anti-nuclear, yeah, because most of our monster movies were like hero comics, where it's like,
right,
nuclear stuff created the problem, and we're just going to kill the thing, not try to make a message about nuclear power,
about caution. Yeah, there's maybe some cautionary tale about be careful with science can bite you, but in this case it's so much more visceral, and it's contextually that only compounds that. So I think that this movie is so impressive for its time. It's so culturally significant in so many ways, and it displays a really, really true sense of national trauma that only a handful of places in the world have ever experienced. So at least not on that scale. So I give it a 4.5. I think it's incredible in a lot of ways. The only drawback for me is that because it is a product of its time, like we said, some of the special effects, specifically the rubber suit, is a little bit hard to swallow, especially because of the same thing that helps it in so many other ways, the context of its culture and what was spawned from it and so forth. it's a detriment in that way because it just makes me think of Godzilla flying vertically with his tail dragging to kick Megalon in the chest. I don't know. Yeah. So there's a little bit of baggage there that's not really this movie's fault, but it's true. And I would say that the slow parts of this movie are mostly bearable, but there is a little bit that I feel like I was like, okay, we can move it along a little bit. You know what I mean? So for my taste, it's a 4.5. I think that it's must see viewing, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Must see TV. All right, that's gonna put our aggregate at a 4.4. Let's go ahead and move over to the Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Godzilla.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, y'all. So this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment. If you are new to the podcast, welcome, and I'm sorry. I'm going to have these three gentlemen guess to the best of their ability between 0% and 100% what the critics aggregate is, the critic score on RottenTomatoes.com, as well as the user score after that. So we're gonna start with the critics here, and there are only 73 reviews counted in this particular case. So why don't we start with our guest Corey? Corey, what do you think the critics think of this movie?
I feel like if there are only 73, they're probably going to be a little fart sniffy, and justifiably so. I'm going to give it a 98.
98, okay. Pretty damn high. Bob, how about you?
It's got to be high. I mean, it's Godzilla. I'm going to go 95.
95. Windows 95. Juice, which Windows edition are you guessing?
90 deuce.
90 deuce.
Good Lord.
Ooh, going back to the DOS era.
Oh, yeah.
Juice, you are going to take it. You are only one off. It's a 93% certified fresh.
Certified.
And this is the critics' consensus. More than straight monster movie fare, Gojira offers potent, sobering post-war commentary. Pretty on the money, I would say. Let's see if there's a negative review I can read because they're the funniest.
That's all I want.
Let's see here.
Comment not available.
Well, this one... Okay, here's the one negative I found.
Raymond Burr out. This movie sucks.
Yeah, why isn't there a white man here to explain what all these people are saying?
Mr. Whiteman.
Come on, Mr. White. All right, let's go with this negative review. This is a 1.5 out of 4 review, and the line here is, it's ultimately rather difficult to discern why Godzilla has amassed a reputation as a classic of the genre. So really, this is just somebody that needs to be punched. It's not really
Fuck you.
It's not really funny.
This shouldn't be a classic. Why is it a classic? That's not a review. That's not.
Okay, here, a treasure that should remain buried to all but the most gonzo Godzilla followers. Another man that deserves a swift kick in the dick. Ooh, Roger Ebert gave it a negative review. This is a bad movie, but it has earned its place in history, and the enduring popularity of Godzilla and other monsters shows that it struck a chord. Wow, real generous of you, prick. All right.
What do you know, you son of a bitch?
You son of a... I'm getting real defensive of this movie that does not need my defense. All right, let's go over...
What does John Carpenter think? Can you say John Carpenter on there?
What?
Carpzilla.
John the Fishman.
See, let's go to the user score. Let's go see what the audience has to say about this. There's significantly more users on this movie, and there are, in fact, 9,892 user ratings on here. Juice, let's start with you this time. What do you think the users think of this movie?
The oozers. They have to be licking the boot, I believe. It's got to be high. How high? 94.
94. All right. Year of our Lord, 1994. Bob, how about you?
I'll go with 91, sir.
91. All right. Corey, how about you?
I'm gonna go lower. I'm gonna go 88.
I think he called you Hot Corey. Pretty sure that's what he said.
Hot Corey. Hot Corey is going to take this one from us.
Whoa.
This is an 89%. So just one off for you as well. So you guys were circling the drain, but Corey was closest there.
All right.
I always
That's
make it in the journey.
only a little bit lower, but yeah, I can see. I feel like that makes sense that an audience, especially probably thousands of which are modern audiences. The users are all modern audiences, right?
Yeah.
So
They didn't have
there's probably
in the 50s. IMDb.
Yeah, but the people who review on Rotten Tomatoes are not always trustworthy.
True.
They didn't have Rotten Tomatoes in the 50s?
Rotten Tomatoes.
They had Razzies, maybe.
You know
when
what
did the
else?
Razzies come? That was the 70s, maybe, or something.
You know what else they had in the 50s? Trivia.
What did they have? Actually, we did a lot of the trivia in the cast.
So you're good?
So yeah.
You're good?
I mean, there's a ton of it, but yeah, since we did a lot of the important
Okay.
stuff.
Well, you know what else they had in the 50s?
We'll skip. I just want to do the theme song real quick.
my
Okay,
God.
good.
Great.
You know what else they had in the 50s?
We got it.
Do you know?
What do they have?
Cooters.
Cooter of the week.
I don't know, man. Juice, tell us what a cooter is so that we can talk about it.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you all about it. Cooter is a straight chillin' exclusive. It is a character type. You have to hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, and we are looking for the cooter of the week. Top King Cooter. The 5 points are manipulation, smug arrogance, sexual deviancy, overall look and attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, is Godzilla a cooter?
Cooterzilla?
I don't think so.
Let's
I
get
don't
him
think
look.
so. Yeah.
He is certainly sexually deviant, but it's all off camera. So what can you do? He's less of a sexual deviant than King Kong. I'll tell you that. That dude.
He with a knotted rope.
I watch King Kong now, and it's like watching.
No.
I watch King Kong now, and it's like watching that B movie because it's like, why are you in love with a giant creature? That doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
So-
Big dong swinging, ladies go for that kind of thing.
Godzilla.
That tongue is bigger than her.
Attire. I mean, I think it looks pretty good, actually. Personally,
You do.
looks pretty good.
Pretty fit.
Those radiation scars are really becoming.
Rob likes rubber.
Thick.
Rob triples down on rubber.
Rubberzilla.
Rob's a big rubber guy.
Alrighty then. So
No kink shame.
pathetic. Is Godzilla pathetic?
I don't think so. I mean,
No.
He kicks
He's
a
just-
lot of ass.
I think it's hard to ascribe, part of what's going on here is you kind of ascribe maliciousness to the creature because it's a creature and you think, okay, it has thought, but it kind of just reacts to things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it really, that's like saying, is a squirrel a cooter? I mean, maybe,
Yes.
He doesn't.
maybe
really,
it has a porn mag in its nest, but I don't think that makes it a cooter.
Yeah, I guess old Godzilla, he's not a cooter, huh?
Yeah, he's not.
Is anybody a cooter?
I don't think
does
so.
Japan have cooters?
If I
Everybody
had
in
to
this movie
mention,
is,
It would
okay, you do.
Ogata, which is
Okay.
the love interest. Because if you take patheticness, he never actually does anything in the movie, and he never, genuinely, he doesn't find Godzilla, he doesn't beat Godzilla, he doesn't discuss a method in which to defeat Godzilla, he doesn't do anything. So he's pretty pathetic. He also cannot talk to like Serizawa or Yamane about his relationship with Emiko. Let's see.
I don't think that character needs to be in this movie, actually.
Yeah. Well.
He
He
was
just
a voice
I mean, I guess
of a
he
side.
represents the young military type.
I feel like
I think he
Amika,
represents that
I feel like
well.
Amika might have been able to do that though on her own.
Is
And
he manipulative in
I
any
don't know.
way?
I don't think he's manipulative. I think sexually deviant. He is macking
Yeah.
on somebody else's fiance, but I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
Knowingly.
consensual, and it's just
he's a little bit of
shit
smug
happens.
arrogance. He's got a little bit of that going,
Yeah.
especially at the
Yeah.
end when he's like, "You follow all of my instructions, you son of a bitch. I'm going down there to."
It's like motherfucker. I invented a fucking oxygen
Frickin'
destroyer.
And his
I will
attire is
destroy you.
fine. He dresses, normally, I guess.
No, yeah, he's looking pretty swanky most of the time, I think.
So
You got them high water slacks. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Can't trust a guy with high water
He's got like
slacks.
1.5. 1.5 isn't going to get you there.
I don't think he qualifies.
No,
Everybody in this
no.
movie, even he, are too tactful to really and too well spoken and got, for the most part, have their shit together.
You know who the real Cooter is? It's the atom bomb. That's the real Cooter.
I think
That's
so.
what it is.
It voluntarily did all that stuff.
It did.
I think the real Cooter is Luigi Cozzi.
Probably.
Actually, you're pretty
like
right
it.
about that.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way.
Yeah.
All right, no Cooter this week, boys.
Damn Italians. All right, no Cooters this week.
We're really
From Idly.
The country that sits.
The country of
Italy.
Uh,
I had to think about that. I was like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, that's pretty typical response to what I say.
They're idling. It's time to talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Get the crab cakes. Randy,
Yes.
what have you been watching?
Not very much. There was a lot of moving issues I had to deal with this week and a lot of work. So I didn't get as much viewing in as I did last time, which is shocking because I had double the amount of time, but whatever. I finally finished BioShock Infinite. That sucked up most of my free time.
Whoa, Randy.
And I will have thoughts forthcoming on that on a bonus episode, most likely.
Bonus.
A
Thank
boners
you.
episode.
Thank you for being my hype man through this.
Yeah.
And
After
really-
every fifth word, I get a little jump in
Okay. All right. I'll try and make them really work for you.
Hey-o.
We got a real Ed McMahon situation happening here. So the only other thing that I would bring up is a fellow by the name of John Boyce, who is a basically like a video production guy who works for SB Nation, the sports blog. And I'm not a big sports guy, but I followed this guy's writing as a comic writer, a comedic writer for some time over the years. And now he makes these videos on YouTube that are all about first of all, different things within the sporting world, but specifically center around, have a bent towards statistics and numbers and what makes these numbers unique and what makes these players unique. And he tells really interesting fucking stories through these things. He's pretty well known at this point. He's like Twitter's most darling person, the most beloved person on Twitter, which is, kind of a low bar, but everybody fucking loves this guy on Twitter. But his videos are so great. And I mentioned this on the Slack channel this week. I rewatched a series of his, a 2-hour documentary basically called The Bob Emergency. And it's all about the rise and fall of the name Bob in professional American sports.
Bob.
And how often it was used, how little it's used now, and all of the notable Bobs throughout the timeline that he produces. And it's really fucking interesting. He covers so many different sports, and they all have really interesting takes on them. There's some of them that are less impressive than others, and then there's guys that were professional baseball and basketball player at the same time, and all kinds of crazy shit. People that do things that are records that are still held 50 years later. You know what I mean? So, and the way he tells the stories are just so matter of fact and enjoyable and charming. I couldn't recommend it more. John Boyce, check him out. He's got a series called Chart Party that does similar things to this. He's got a series that he used to do called Pretty Good, about stories that are pretty good. That's the line.
Sweet.
And they're all really, really, really fantastic. I love them, and I recommend them. That's it. That's where I'm going to cut myself off. I don't have a lot else that's worth talking about.
Cool. Juice, what you been watching?
I saw Vivarium. Vivarium, I don't know. I saw that with old Eisenberg and Imogene, and it was a weird movie. It was very particular, different than a lot of stuff that's kind of come out lately. Didn't blow my mind or anything, but I was pleasantly surprised at how kind of unique it was, I guess, or just had a different kind of refreshing feel. So I was into that. And I saw Peninsula, which is the follow-up to Train to Busan. Finally was able, the art house theater I usually go to finally got it with the English sub. So I was happy about that. So I got to see that. And actually, since it's not out in the States, and I don't know what the plan is for that, for it to come out in the States, but I think I am going to do like a spoiler-free deal on my travel channel since it's a Korean deal. So on my YouTube, sometimes I do reviews, but it's like brand new in Korea, and I don't know if it's coming out in the States. So I might just kind of give my general impressions on there. So if you're interested in that for when it finally does drop in the States, you can check that out. Probably dropping on Tuesday. And then I've been watching season 2 of The Umbrella Academy. That just came out, and I enjoyed season 1 quite a bit. It's a show on Netflix, and so far season 2 is pretty solid. They like go back in time, so they're like in the 60s, and it's pretty interesting. It's done pretty well. And let's see, what else have I been watching? I think that's about it. Had a big movie weekend, going to the movies twice, but it was nice. It's been rainy, so
I bet it was nice. It must be nice to go to the movies.
So you've been going to the drive-in, Bob.
That's true, but I can't just do that any day. It's a special thing.
It's been
Poor Bob.
Oh, Bob. Oh,
He's very personal. He got personal problems.
Please pity me.
Bob. Oh.
Hey, Corey, what you been watching?
All right. So first and foremost, Jackie, I have finally watched Reanimator.
Whoa,
nice.
There you go.
First time. That was really enjoyable. It's a fun movie. I could totally watch it again.
Cool.
But follow up with that, at the drive-in, I got to see Dead Alive.
God damn.
Nice.
You've had a good week.
Yeah. That I get why people like Reanimator, but I think Dead Alive does it for me even more. And again, it comes
down. Got to see those yabos. Huh?
Those giant mommy yabos.
Yabos-zilla.
There's Yabos.
Yabos-zilla and a womb that attacks you.
Wombzilla.
I love the New Zealand just niceness through the whole film. It's endearing. His mom is nothing but under flesh and bones. He's like, no, she'll be fine. She'll be fine.
Hi, Lionel.
So other than that
was terrible.
You've got a very bad Kiwi accent.
I know it.
So every Friday on the official Tsuburaya channel on YouTube, they stream the new Ultraman Z, 6 or 7 episodes deep now. And then yesterday I binged an anime on Netflix called Doro Hedoro. If you like kind of the goofiness of something like Cowboy Bebop, it will never be as amazing as Cowboy Bebop, but if you like the charm of that, Doro Hedoro has it. The plot is it's there, but it's mostly an anime to tell you stories. Yeah.
What is this available on?
Netflix.
Netflix?
It is a Netflix original, quote unquote, so you can only get it there.
Gotcha.
All the Japanese stuff on my Netflix doesn't offer the English subs because I'm in damn Korea. So they offer Korean subs.
Get you a VPN and pretend you're at Bob's place.
Yeah, I need to.
Do they offer chicken tender subs?
Don't pretend that, please.
Before I forget it, I did spend, Friday, I think, watching, looking through photos and watching Juice's travel stuff. So I was watching some of those.
Whoa.
I like what you got.
Thanks for the support, guy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't get ahead of yourself. He didn't say he supported you.
He watched it.
I watched it, and it was all dog shit.
I really
Give up.
really can't believe you would do such a thing and put such trash out into the world.
I guess if I'm going to say check out my Peninsula review, I should say it is on YouTube. It's at Justin Abroad. Sorry, I did not say.
Justin's abroad. Oh,
Justin's Abroad.
Weird.
Getting rid of his live rope.
Right. Hey,
Gotta lop that thing.
Hey,
right?
Rob.
Hey, Bob.
What you been watching?
Hey
Bob.
guys!
Hey there,
Hi.
Bob.
Let me
Hey,
tell you.
Bob.
Let me
Nobody
tell you
cares.
what I've. Damn. Let me tell you what I've been watching. I watched Body Snatchers from 1993.
And
It's
heard it's the worst.
pretty decent. It's not great. It's definitely not as good as the one from the 70s. This was directed by Abel Ferrara. It's definitely got like a 90s vibe to it. Everybody's dressed, as they would be in the 90s. It takes
Bucket hats
place
with sunflowers on them and shit.
basically, yeah.
Jinkos, chain wallets.
These teens are just like so brooding, and they got problems. They got their headphones on. They're listening to the hard rocks, the Nirvanas,
Got the Walkmans.
the Walkmans. They're walking and they're
Listening to
definitely
their
not talking.
Nirvana.
But yeah, it takes place on like a military base, and this family is like the dad is like a hired contractor, and he brings the whole family on a base, and he's doing whatever research he's supposed to be doing there, and the base gets basically taken over by aliens, and all the military personnel are just slowly becoming aliens. And the family tries to get turned a couple times, and they do a really cool thing in this version of the Body Snatchers, where it like kind of shows the process a little more in depth of a person being copied, like in real time. And it happens like while you're asleep. And there's a couple instances in this movie where the person being copied wakes up, and like the half copied version of them also wakes up. And it's just like absolutely horrific. It's pretty brutal. Overall,
Just out there snatching bodies, you're gonna get caught.
right. Overall, it's worth watching, but like I said, it doesn't really touch the one from the 70s. Pretty decent though. Pretty decent movie. I also watched Vivarium, like Juice. It's on Amazon Prime, so it's pretty easy to find.
Amazon.
Amazon Prime. This movie's pretty solid. It's the house that they move into. It's like definitely it's got some commentary going on here. Definitely commenting on like suburbia, but like the suburban neighborhood they move into is so obviously fake. But I think it's intentional. It's like it's very painterly. It looks.
Oh yeah.
It looks absurd, and they move into this house that nobody else lives in the neighborhood, and they can't leave. And they're like, this child is forced upon them, and they have to raise this baby. And apparently, if they raise the kid, they're going to be able to leave. So they start raising this kid, and you learn more about the child and more about who's sort of running this operation as the movie goes. And the kid is just the worst thing.
The fucking worst
thing.
The fucking worst.
It's pretty difficult to watch at certain points, but it's intended to be that way. Eisenberg does a good job. Poots kills it. She always does. I recommend
Poots kills it.
Poots is just Putin. She's Putin. Rootin' tootin' Putin.
It's
Solid.
That's where we're headed.
Solid.
That's where we're at now.
that's the period of that sentence for sure.
That's the end of my review on Vivarium. The only other thing I want to mention real quick is I watched The Last Dance, which is that Michael Jordan documentary. It's currently on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
In its entirety. It's like 10 installments, 10 episodes. Each one's about 50 minutes to an hour long, something like that.
Yeah.
Not a basketball guy, never really kept up with basketball in any way, but that thing is just engrossing. I couldn't stop
Isn't
watching
it so
I have to check
good,
that out.
dude? It's so good.
I have not
turn
heard
it off.
a bad thing about it, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty intrigued.
So good.
It's amazing to watch players just to watch somebody do something that they are absolutely a master at. Like they're masterful at their
best.
craft. It's just it's so amazing to watch them play basketball. And I don't care about basketball, but it's incredible. So I definitely recommend it. The Last Dance on Netflix.
Wow.
Yeah. That's all. That's all I got. That's what I've been watching. We got one more segment to get into. It's the Hotline Scream segment. If you are listening and you want to call and leave us a voicemail, you can do so at 904-638-3231. We got some voicemails to get to here. We got 5 this week, actually.
Whoa, it's bumping.
Question that we posed last week was, when do you kick off your Halloween season, and with what movie do you do so? So we got a couple responses to that and a couple others just kind of weighing in saying, hey, what's up, guys? Randy, are you going in order? You starting with Steve? I believe Steve was the first one that called in.
Yes.
Maybe.
Steve. Let's see what Steve has to say.
I think this is Steve. It does not say so in the speech to text.
Sweet.
So, here we go.
All right.
Hey guys, I wanted to leave you a moderately timed voicemail. I'm still working through your older episodes and movies that I haven't seen before and things like that because there's a shitload of movies I haven't seen. I want to see them and I want to get your take on them. I'm a completionist. So last night I watched Alien and I noticed this is more of a fun little tidbit to me, maybe a little outside of the scope of your show, but the Harry Dean Stanton character in the original Avengers movie, there's the scene where Loki's kicking all their ass, and it's kind of the, oh no, the team's, what are we going to do moment of the film, and the Hulk gets knocked out of the ship, and he falls in this shitty abandoned building, and he wakes up, and there's the caretaker or janitor, whatever, and it's Harry Dean Stanton, and he says to Bruce, who's, you know, the Hulk guy, are you an alien? And he's like, what? He's like, are you an alien from space? And I never made that connection before. So watching Alien last night for the first time and seeing that character, I thought, holy shit, maybe that's a fun little callback to, you know, one of his previous iconic roles, so to speak. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But it was fun for me. And give Bob a little shout. I watched the movie on physical media because I still get physical DVDs sent from Netflix. All my friends make fun of me, but not every movie is on streaming, so they can go fuck themselves. I'm with you, Bob. Okay, that's all. You guys have a great weekend, and even a great week after that. Bye.
Maybe I'm stupid.
Maybe so.
Whoa, maybe.
Steve said, if you got blues, you don't need boys. Am I right?
Did he say that?
That's pretty much what he was getting at, I think.
If you have blues, you don't need
Does that
boys?
count though, Bob? Because he's just getting them from Netflix.
I was just
So
trying
he's
to
sending them
decipher
back.
you're
the
splitting
psychology.
He's not hoarding them in his home.
You're splitting hairs.
Like he
over
does
here.
boys.
See, if
Yes.
I didn't have all these blues, I'd have all these boys. And
It's a good way of staving off the
It's
sexual
blues or
impropriety.
boys. Those are the only two choices.
the grocery bill would just be outrageous. I couldn't possibly.
If I
feed
didn't
all
have
those
blues,
boys.
I'd be a chief cooter myself.
A man either has blues or he's got boys. Which one are you?
Take your pick. God. Well, hey, Steve, thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
And
I love anything to do with Harry Dean. That's a
right.
good pull.
Yeah, that's definitely not something I picked up in the Avengers movies. Of course, I've only seen them all like once. I'm not super knowledgeable in that realm at all, but that's pretty cool. That's a cool pickup for sure.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that either.
Yeah. Thanks
Good shit.
Thanks for weighing in, Steve, and educating us. We got two back to back here from Wes. Let's go ahead and hear what Wes has to say.
Hey guys, it's Wes again. This is like my third Hot Light Scream in a row or something. But to answer y'all's question, what is my first Halloween movie I'm going to be watching this coming Halloween? Probably Josie and the Pussycats.
Who's a rock star?
Wes.
That was for you, Randy,
Yeah.
I believe.
Who's a rock star? Thanks, Wes. That's a great choice.
I got to watch this movie, I guess. I don't know.
You got to watch that fucking movie, man. I will stand by it. That is a fun fucking movie. Smart. It is not. Well, it's not stupid either. It's just silly. It's silly as fuck.
Sweet.
Aha.
I love
right.
it.
We got
It's the best.
All right,
we got one more
Wes
from Wes.
Parduce.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
Hey, it's Wes again. It's like 1 o'clock, but I had to call back because my last one was bullcrap. I've never even watched Josie and the Pussycats. I don't even know what the crap that's about. Sorry, Randy. But the movie I start my Halloween, trip off with, probably like Trick or Treat, but like I said, I really can't watch that until like October. So if we're watching something in September-ish, then I would probably go with something like Friday the 13th. But yeah. Alright, see.
Wes sounds like he's sleepy drunk.
Dude, Josie and the Pussycats made Wes insomniatic. So I love that.
I'm no longer interested in watching it. He rescinded his recommendation.
Yeah. No, that last one was bullshit.
Nah.
I appreciate the candor and etiquette it takes to admit when you're wrong, admit when you're full of shit. Good job, Wes. Way to wake up at 1 a.m. in a cold sweat because you left us an error.
I gotta call back.
Made a huge mistake.
Hilarious.
I don't want people to think that of me.
Cool. Thanks for
right,
calling in, Wes. Kicking your season off right, sounds like it, with Trick or Treat and or Friday the 13th. Classics for sure. We got another voicemail here from Donnie Darko himself.
Whoa.
Oh.
Double D. Let's see what he has to say.
Gentlemen of Straight Chillin', Donnie Darko here, Belmar, New Jersey, checking in. Big time horror fan, avid horror podcast listener. Found you guys a couple years ago, and been keeping up with the episodes. Tried to get in to get one of my movies, but you guys got that pretty quick on the last Patreon. So don't worry, I'm still gonna be checking in with you guys on that. No problem. Just wanted to let you know that I'm just listening to the Anaconda episode as it just aired, and one thing I'm surprised you guys didn't bring up, especially with the snake as part of being a cooter. Man, he threw that monkey right up into the dude's face. That had to be mentioned. I just thought that was such a classic scene that I remembered right away as soon as I saw it from happening when I originally saw the movie, but that brought back some memories. Anyway, just wanted to let you know that I also caught an old episode, and if you guys could just bring it up again, because you had me cracking up with the Jello pudding pops, and that was just hilarious. So anytime, just throw that back out again, because it was good stuff. That was quality. I want to say that I wish you guys would cover a little more. I'm a real fan of found footage horror, and I wish you'd cover a few more, but you've got one, it sounds like, coming up if the politicking goes the way it's going to go, with a little VHS2 action. So that would be a great thing to hear. Anyway, I've been running through the catalog. I usually don't watch a movie or listen to a podcast episode until I've seen that movie, with the exception of a few really crappy movies I'm not going to watch. Found a few great movies. Found the movie Martin. Totally loved that movie. Thought it was really good. Glad you guys, I think I might have seen it many years ago, but you definitely reintroduced it for me. So that was a great thing. Horror movies in October, I usually follow just the 31 Days of Halloween thing. As soon as October starts, there's a specific round of movies that I hit. But, I'm watching horror movies year round, so it doesn't really matter. But there are some Halloween themed ones that definitely take precedent. And I'm not going to get into all that right now. But, anyway, just wanted to cover that with you guys. Some things that you, have covered recently have just been really entertaining, and thanks for what you're doing out there. All right, talk soon.
Rudy.
Wait, am I out of the loop on something?
What do you mean?
Do we know who that is?
It's
That's Donnie Darko. He's a
Double
little
D.
chattier than he was in the film, but that's Donnie.
Yeah.
Was that like the old bish?
No,
not at all.
You've been gone so long, you don't remember what Cesar's sexy ass voice sounds like.
Cesar would have you creaming your jeans if he was talking.
Because
all right?
whoever
That's
that
how we
was
do.
actually sounded like Jake Gyllenhaal, like straight up.
That was Jake. Jake just called in
my boy Jake.
to tell us to do a Bill Cosby impression.
Jake the Snake. Randy, you got to dust it off. Apparently, you don't have any choice.
I'm not a trained monkey, so I'm gonna do that in time. I will acquiesce, but I will do it at the appropriate time.
You're not a monkey that was vomited up.
I feel.
Gotcha.
I was not. That is true. That fucking snake just disrespectful is what it is.
It is.
Just a real disrespectful snake.
It's just wrong.
All right.
It's wrong. Thanks for calling in, Double D. Good to hear from you. We got
Double D.
we got one more voicemail from Matt S. Let's hear what Matt has to say.
Hey guys, this is Matt from Jacksonville, calling to answer your question. Halloween season starts the moment the fireworks stop on July 4th. That's just the way it is. Anyone that thinks different isn't a true Halloween fan. As you guys know, in Jacksonville, it stays hot until about the end of December. So if we're going to pretend that it's autumn, you might as well start pretending early, because you're going to have hot, sweaty balls on Halloween night regardless. So pop in Halloween. I think I did Interview with a Vampire. I watched Sleepaway Camp for the first time, all at the end of January. And everyone else should just embrace this new culture of starting Halloween on July 5th.
All right. Matt,
I think he meant July, not January.
Yeah, I think so.
He said that he told us he had just watched Halloween. So
Yeah. Matt's a good man, and I appreciate as soon as you hear that last firework pop, you drop in Halloween. Fuck it. Just drop it.
That man told me how to kill another man with a sword.
That's factual.
Yeah.
Yes. He is a master.
He also apparently has chronic sweaty balls. So so sorry to you, Matt.
Only on Halloween night. That's only on Halloween.
Just chapped, sweaty hot balls on Halloween.
Damn.
No wonder you got to start early. You got to get in the good times before the balls
They're
get too
chapped
sloppy.
and sweaty.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
They go hand in hand if you're in Jacksonville.
Only in Jacksonville. Only this city.
It's a really centrally located crotch rot.
Ooh.
Absolutely. Thanks for weighing in, Matt. Matt's a good man. Good to hear from you. That's all the voicemails we got this week.
Do we have we covered what our kickoff movie is? Do we want to do that?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about it.
I don't think we've answered our own fucking question.
We talked about it like a little bit last episode. I don't think we got real deep into it. Randy, you're chomping at the bit. You want to kick us off?
I don't know if this really would be the first one I would watch. My kickoff, I agree that I think Halloween is perfectly up for grabs. It should be started at any time after 4th of July ends. Is sounds like a great rule to me. I like to hold off and just really go wild once October comes. But in terms of movies that I would watch, I always watch at least one Halloween movie, obviously, like the franchise Halloween. But I don't always kick it off with that. I think that probably the one that I'm going to start, that I've been kicking off with the last few years, is not so much a movie, but it's the series Over the Garden Wall. That to me is that's in autumn and Halloween encapsulated. It allows you to sort of ease into autumn, which eases into Halloween. It's just like a nice ramping up effect because it's also moderately creepy. We've covered it on this show quite a bit, and I'm a nerd about it. So I'm always chomping at the bit to watch that. So there's that. And if not that, then maybe Ghost Watch. That's in recent years become a real go-to for me. But I'm split as to whether or not it's better on a really close to Halloween night, if not on Halloween night, or if it's better early. So those are my answers probably.
Solid.
Probably.
Juice, what do you got?
So yeah, it is kind of hard because we are watching horror movies 24/7 here pretty much all year round. So I will say though, to Randy's point, Ghost Watch has now become a yearly watch for me. Over the Garden Wall has become a yearly watch. So I have movies that I have to watch in the Halloween season, but with Over the Garden Wall, I will not watch it until the weather breaks here. But luckily, it's pretty reliable. So the first week of September, it will hit and it's autumn. You feel it in the air. You start to smell the smells or whatever. And so once that hits, stuff like Ghost Watch and Over the Garden Wall, the Halloweens become completely fair game. My body can't take it any earlier. I celebrate the Halloween season in July, but my body needs that break in the weather to be to wrap myself in it. But let's see, to kick it off, usually darker movies, something Not your like Midsummers or even like saw like Vivarium yesterday. It was like a very bright, cheery kind of movie. So you need something maybe a little more moodier. I was thinking maybe this year of kind of like really celebrating it and kicking it off with Ginger Snaps. It's been a couple years since I've seen Ginger Snaps, and that's a solid one to kind of come back in on. And yeah, I might kick it off this year with Ginger Snaps. I feel like.
Good call. Corey, did you want to weigh in on this? You have any movies you watch around the holiday?
So around Halloween, if you completely exclude monster movies, because I watch Alien and The Thing a lot, sometimes once or twice a year. But if you go into horror movies, kind of Shaun of the Dead, guaranteed every year, usually early October. And then maybe every other year I rewatch Trick or Treat. Nice.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Damn, I can't imagine not watching Shaun of the Dead like 8 times a year. It's just
doesn't get
the
old.
soundtrack of my life. Yeah, it really doesn't.
Yeah. Myself, I usually try and like if it's a movie that's really specific to Halloween, I try and wait till September 1st to watch that stuff. And the stuff that I reach for initially is usually like maybe Pumpkinhead or Idle Hands, because they're definitely rooted in Halloween, but they're not like Halloween, Trick or Treat and Halloween, I gotta wait till October for that. Also, I'll start warming up with some of the like Roseanne Halloween specials. There's a shitload of them, and they're super nostalgic for me. So I'll watch a few of those and get the feels in that way. And Over the Garden Wall is also a fucking perfect thing to throw on as soon as September hits.
Oh my! Even thinking about these things is freaking me out.
I know, man.
Like my body is having a hard time. I was just thinking about like Ghostwatch, Over the Garden Wall. I'm just like, no, dude, it's monsoon season.
I'm gonna definitely watch the first Hell House again this year too. That might be a good kickoff actually, because that's very Halloween-y, but it's also like kind of low stakes movie to me to like rewatch.
Yeah, I might rewatch
or Haunt. Even.
Yeah, I was about to say Haunt. Yeah,
were you gonna say Haunt?
Yeah, Haunt.
Yeah.
Terrifier might be good.
Terrifier
might not be bad. I don't love that movie, but it'd be a good season opener.
Whoa, boys. We're getting close. We're already on the September poll pick. We're getting there.
It's so close. So close. All right. Yeah. So that's plenty of movies. If you're looking for some suggestions, there you go.
Here's a question that we can pose that I just came up with. What movies do you save for any other time besides Halloween? What horror movies won't you watch during Halloween? Because it's pretty standard practice for like, if it's a horror movie, it's fair game. I think that's reasonable. But there are movies that I particularly like. I'm not going to watch Jaws around that time.
Sure.
I'm not going to watch
Christmas movies, of course.
Yeah. Can't
that's true. But those are tied to seasons as well. So I'm trying to think of movies that just that are great, but don't scream Halloween.
Well with Halloween.
I feel like there's probably some good answers to that, but I'm not
like the brighter ones. Yeah, like Midsummer. I wouldn't be watching that. Probably not Texas. Oh no. Texas is good for.
Texas Chainsaw works. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what's persona non grata come Halloween time.
I typically don't watch the Friday the 13th series because I watch those during the summertime.
Summer.
Yeah.
Tucker and Dale wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
Any kind of camping or like desert stuff, I don't think would be good. So like Hills Have Eyes wouldn't be good. I don't think. For me, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the desert in the autumn time. I want to see the leaves.
Well, shit, I'm about to see that firsthand.
To clarify the question, is it specifically like horror movie? What horror movie do you reserve for outside of like October, September?
Yeah.
Even if it's just one that you're like, I don't have time for this movie because there are so many better Halloween movies around, like even if it's something like that, just something that doesn't play for you in that season.
Yeah, you don't want to take your time on these movies when it's Halloween season. You got to get the Halloween stuff in. So what are you not wasting your time with?
There's great pumpkins to Charlie Brown out there. You got to get out.
Oh my God.
Old Hold it together, boys.
Yeah, it's becoming overwhelming.
Few more weeks till September.
Rob is the true casualty of this whole pandemic is Rob's desire to buy shit from Spirit Store.
And at home, Bob.
Dude, that's
Bob,
fucking
don't go to
true.
at home.
That is fucking true. I don't think we have any at homes, but I know they have their shit on the shelves already. I think Michael's does
There's
too.
one in Orange Park, or there used to be.
Oh
Dude,
boy,
there's a lot of extra.
Taking a trip to Orange Park tonight.
There's a lot of extra closed stores, so I'm sure they'll be popping up any day now.
right? Yeah. All right, yeah. So call in, leave us a voicemail. Let us know what movie you specifically don't watch around Halloween season. Hit us up at 904-638-3231. Big thanks again, Corey, for sitting in with us, keeping us straight on the Godzilla, and dropping some mad knowledge, man.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, much appreciated. We'll definitely have to have you back on.
Thanks, Corey.
Yeah.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks
to
for
see you
pronouncing
guys.
everything correctly.
Yeah.
I really
Bob did
appreciate
okay.
that.
I don't know about that, but thanks. Appreciate it. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show. It's going to be another Patreon pick. This one was chosen by Matt G. We're going to be talking about Humanoids from the Deep from 1980. Check it out. Another.
Never seen it.
Yeah, it's another creature feature. Creatures coming out of the water.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Definitely not as classy as Godzilla. But hey, I'm excited to talk about it. So check that out. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling. On Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on the weekly, daily, hourly Slack channel conversations, just let us know on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link to join in on the Slack channel fun. Slack channel's been popping off the fucking chain, man.
Popping
off. It's been a lot of fun growing our little community. So come on, join in, jump in the water, because it's feeling fine. Yeah, that's it. That's all we got this week here at Straight Chilling. Until next week, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Wooden pop.